Hi, everybody. Welcome to the first Women in Tech event powered by NLS. I'm sure most of you are seeing some new faces at NLS today. So let me start by introducing myself. My name is Rasika Satam. I have been working with the NLS family for close to 4 years now. We are a boutique tech-focused recruitment agency based out of Hong Kong, and my area of specialization is recruiting in the digital marketing and sales space. I'd be co-hosting this event today with Sana. And so our topic for today is, are we there yet? So Sana will shed more light on this as we proceed. And today we have some great women leaders on our panel who are looking forward to having an impactful discussion. So we are excited to get this started. Sana?
Hi, thank you everyone for joining. I'm Sana. I'm relatively a newer addition to the NLS family. Here at NLS, I cover client partnerships and business development. And first of all, I'd like to thank all of you who've just joined in. I can see a lot of people are joining in right now. Thank you so much for being here in our Women in Tech discussion. Are we there yet? So, the question of are we there yet? It is no secret that the tech industry has largely been a male-dominated space. From cultural and social beliefs to assumptions, discrimination that women face in this industry can make it challenging for their tech careers to, go on. It is pretty much at every level, but more so when it comes to a leadership role. But also at the same time, we've been fortunate enough to see a whole generation of innovative female executives who have been fighting for opportunity, who've been pushing the status quo, who've been challenging, and they're just not taking no for an answer. And today we would like to reflect on what it feels like to be a female leader in the tech industry in today's time by asking the question, are we there yet? And I think there's no better way of answering this question than by hearing it straight from the female leaders we have in the industry today. So thank you so much, Kelly, Mayda, Lorena, for joining us. It would be great if we could just start with a little bit of introduction, if you could introduce yourselves to our audiences. So Kelly, would you like to go first?
Sure. Thank you, Sana Rasika, for the introduction. Hello, everyone. I'm Kelly, and I run the iClick lab for iClick Interactive. We are a marketing technology company. We connect global marketers with Chinese consumer through our own marketing technology platform. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly. Over to you, Lorena.
Hi, thank you. Hi, everyone. Good evening. Really nice to be here. My name is Lorena. I work for HSBC and I head up the smart banking team within the Hong Kong digital team. We work in financial technology. We work with the fintech companies, and we drive digital innovation, and looking forward to tonight's discussion.
Awesome. Thank you. Mayda, would you like to go on?
Hi, a very good afternoon and evening to everyone. So thank NLS for this opportunity for the platform to share. My name is Mayda Lim. So I have been in the tech industry for the past 20 years. Now I'm leading a software development center for Australian New Zealand Bank based in China.
Great, awesome. Thank you so much for the introductions. Another thing, I see a lot of people still joining in. Thank you so much for joining. We're just about to start with a discussion on women in tech. Are we there yet? Just another thing before we start, if you have any questions, please feel free to direct them to Albert Lee using the chat option, and we'll try to take as many questions as we can from the audience during the course of the session. So, before we start, it would be great if I could just, ask what really propelled you people to take up a career in tech? If you could share a bit about how your journey started, about your career path. So, just if you could talk to us a little bit more about that. Lorena, would you like to go on first?
I do feel slightly like a fraud because I'm actually an English graduate, and I did international marketing in business school. I classify myself as a marketeer at heart and a digital by profession. I stumbled into financial technology, fintech in London 4 years ago, and I'm still figuring out this financial technology and tech scene. So I guess this is a not classic way of being in the bigger, broader, by definition, tech industry. But it also shows that tech industry, tech career comes in different shapes and formats.
Of course, yeah. Wonderful, yeah. I mean, yeah, that is absolutely correct. Mayda, would you like to share your journey? What really inspired you on to take a career in tech?
So Lorena stumbled into it. For me, it's like 20 years in the tech industry. I don't think that I stumbled by accident, right? It's very much like I've been a tech graduate, and then I've been always in a tech industry throughout my entire career. So I would say that I'm in the hardcore tech, running data centers, and I think the keyword is transformation, where the tech industry is really forcing me as an individual is continue to transform. And so I moved into from a data center, a hardcore technology operation, into development. And even though now we do a software development, the common words they say agile, sprint, fast, and be flexible. And so I also had to continue to reinvent myself. Is that how to be in the agile models, and at the same time, I would say that the skill set, the knowledge, have to be also keep on reskilling, upskilling, less skilling, whatever. I think that is a challenge being in the tech industry, that it keep me going because of the challenge.
That's very interesting. Yeah, it keeps you constantly engaged that way. Kelly, how about you? Would you like to share your journey with us?
Yes, thank you. So for the ladies, it seems like I think I will be a hybrid of the two. What got me started actually were girlfriends, effectively girlfriends. I have a close network of girlfriends, and one in particular introduced me to a tech startup. And this was back in autumn of 1999, so close to 20 plus years also. It was a tech startup that did messaging platform back in 99, a Hong Kong tech startup. And I think ever since I've remained in tech. In the early days, I took some courses, learn HTML and Java, and now I've started dabbling a bit into Python since I work with data. But, looking at back in 1999, email and chat applications were considered sort of techy, right? So I think I was fascinated with this first generation of chat apps there's this chat app called IRC, which is Internet Relay Chat. Yeah. For those who actually know that, we're a certain age, yeah. But I think what was important is that in those days, before the ICQs and the MSN, it sounds like cryptic acronyms now, but compared to the Snapchat and the Telegrams now. So I've been in that messaging and software and digital space for the longest time, and that was the earlier part of my career. And then naturally, I gravitated towards this TMT, technology, media, and telecom space. And I got an opportunity to work at several firms, which is across digital, as in digital marketing, then across e-commerce at eBay, and then with mobile apps development, and then fast forward really into deep martech. And then this is now 20 plus years later, I'm effectively a hardcore martech, digital focused lady running iClick Interactive for the iClick lab itself.
That's awesome. Kelly, you mentioned a lot of languages, a lot of technologies, made 20 years into technology. So Kelly, let's start with you again. Is there any technology in particular that you've worked on that has inspired you over your career?
Technology that has inspired me, I think what I really like is the artificial intelligence space. If you look at what we, anything from deep fake content all the way to autonomous driving, I think that has really added a lot of interesting use case application for just the industry in general. Look at this this amazing conference that we have, and we were joking about it earlier. I've added a filter so that my complexion looks fairer, right? So imagine in the future, it's really forget about makeup and plastic surgery. It's all about putting the right filter on, right?
Totally. Yeah. Yes, we're getting there.
I was thinking that was supposed to be a secret, but now that you've said, all right,
this.
Lovely. Mayda, would you like to tell us about any technology that you worked in particular in your career that has inspired you?
Okay, if I would change a little bit, I would say that what is the most amazing is the people that in the tech that make the whole thing interesting. The tech itself is very much like, I would say it's a binary, 0 and 1. Regardless which generations that we are moving to, it's like now we say that probably I'm in the finance industry. So we said, okay, now we're in the fintech 3.0. And what makes fintech 3.0 or what make the regtech, health tech, whatever the interesting, I would say it's the people. It is the people that acquire the skill set. It is the people that dare to push the boundary. And that keep me going in the way where when I look into how people acquire the new skill set and then they use the skill set to produce, to use the engineering capabilities, to generate something interesting, that keep me going. I think that will be the most interesting technology so far.
That's very unique,
Yeah,
I must say.
That's very insightful.
Lorena, would you like to add to this?
Well, I think I agree with the point that technology itself is binary. I work mostly with what you can say open APIs. That's the field that I'm in. But I would apply the customer lens. So when you look at, let's think of a very simple example. If you want to help people to save without having to think about it. So in there, you've got automation, you've got big data, you've got artificial intelligence, you've got blah, 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 blah. But ultimately, technology serves people. If we're just dwelling into what piece of technology is the most valuable, then we lose the actually why you're doing this piece of technology. It is the technology is a means to an end. What it enables people to do, what it enables us as business to offer to customers, I think that's more interesting.
Yeah, wonderful. Yeah, technology is the means to the end. That sounds amazing. Yeah. All right. So, you guys just spoken about your career spanning over like 20 years for you and everything. So in an industry which has been male dominated largely, and I can imagine, even back in the day, it must have been more so. So what do you think females can do, and how can they take on a lead to play like a more prominent role, a more prominent leadership role? How do you think women can take a lead onto that in an industry which is dominated by men? So Lorena, why don't we just start from you?
I think you double down tech and finance. Both sides tend to be male dominated. So women in fintech, you can see there's power list coming up in every country, every event, etc., etc. But I mean, I haven't been in industry for 20 years, so I'm not senior enough to say that. But really, as I grew up, I don't think I found there is a massive division between you have to be a man to do this. It wasn't in my brain. And I hope as we get, as the world develops even more openly and we have amazing female leader roles. I mean, in financial industry, recently the biggest news is Jane Fraser became the first CEO designated for Citi, which is going to be the first one in the high street bank's history. That kind of role model being there, I hope just future generations or even current generations would not even think about this obstacle at all, because it shouldn't be in their heads.
Yeah, very well said. I mean, yeah, it is pretty much all about the mindset. And, if you're able to achieve that sort of mindset where that is not even a thought for the younger generations to come, I think it would be a success in itself. Going back to the question, if I would get your thoughts, Kelly, on it, what would be your thoughts on it?
So I think I've been very lucky to be accepted and also embraced by my sort of tech colleagues in general. But looking amongst the large group of male peers in the tech space, I believe organizations that I've worked for, eBay, Laserfish, even Amobi, basically the CEO and founders were all female. So I had a really good sort of path working with strong women leadership structures. So I think from my experience, I feel like oftentimes when you show interest into projects that are driven by new technology and being curious about how tech can lead to better business innovation is a great way to build that momentum. And staying connected with talents in the tech space, that's also a great way to sort of drive women leadership in tech.
Yeah, I'm sure networking has always been important, and I believe more so now in like the world we are living in today. I think networking can play a huge role. Mayda, what are your thoughts on this?
I would say that the other elements will be important is mentoring, regardless whether there is a male or female dominance. I think what we need to create is consciousness. I think that is one. once we have the consciousness, we need to make sure that we have sufficient data sets to look into it. So we can say that, yeah, this is a male dominance, this is a female dominance. I would say that what we wanted to create is a more equal world. When we have mentorings where it could be a mentor, reverse mentoring, whatever models that we have, that created the consciousness that we wanted to create the place where it's more inclusive, more balanced, and to make it as a better place for everyone to work. I would say that is one of the very important components if we wanted to move the needle. We are not changing the world, but I think we can move the needle or put a little bricks on it to make a changes.
Great. Yeah, it's very interesting that you mentioned the importance of mentors, because that's also something that, you know, was playing on our mind, especially for when you join in an industry. Do you look for a mentor? Did you look for a mentor initially?
I will have to say that I have a collection of mentors, and you can imagine that there is like a wardrobe, and it's a collection of it, and different of the wardrobe, they have a different mentor that they are the skill set that they are very good at. So as a result, that throughout my career, I collected a collection of mentors, not only like one or two, but I would say it's a collection of it. So whenever areas that I need help, I need advice, that is where I would draw, okay, this drawer, I need to call this mentor, I need this help, this thing, and this, that. But on top of that, I do have one or two that I invest a lot of my time to smear my time into their life, that we build a relationship on that. So that it was like, if we talk about the tech world, it's like we have a front-end engineer, back-end engineer, the full-stack engineer. So we also need to have, like myself, I keep a full-stack mentor that he or she that know everything.
But now that you mention about mentors, Mayda, do you feel that it is really important or necessary to have a mentor or sponsor in your professional life?
It is important. They are not only important, I would say extremely important. So we need to identify, like myself, I identify mentors. I also identify sponsor. So I remember that I had one time, I think probably a few years back, I have a mentor for many years. And that point of time, sponsor become a very popular word. So I told my mentor, I said, mentor, today you are fired. I'm upgrading you to a sponsor. And we completely have no idea in terms of what he needs to do as my sponsor. So we sit down, we walk through, we analyze, we deep dive. Okay, this is what the role of the mentor, this is the role of the sponsor. And I would say that for female, it's very important to have a sponsor. I would have to say that many times in my career was elevated because of the sponsor that I have. They speak for me in the boardroom. They speak for me, right? So it's like without my presence in the decision-making table, these are the sponsors that they put their branding. They also raise with me that they sponsor my name into certain roles that he thinks or she thinks that I can do it. So I would say that both are equally important, but they have two different distinct roles, the sponsor and the mentor that they're playing. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing your experience. Lorena, Kelly, would you like to add on to that, having the importance of mentors or your mentors that you still look up to in the industry?
Sure. I think mentors are especially important, in my opinion, for when people are younger, because mentors with their more experience in life has more multi-dimension view of the world, and that could definitely help to elevate you. With sponsors, it's an interesting concept because sponsors, I love it that Mayda just appointed a sponsor. That's a very good mentor that you've upgraded. But I think sponsors is more earned rather than, you know, that person needs to be willing to sponsor you because they are putting their reputation, their everything online to vouch for you. And so that makes it a little hard because the conversation is not as straightforward as, please, can you mentor me? I admire these traits in you, I would learn from you. It's, can you sponsor me? And it's essentially, can you champion for me and beat the drum for me, etc. I've got one experience that I had one manager a few years ago who gave me amazing opportunities and trusted me with a lot of responsibilities and really helped me to elevate. So, and I was having a conversation with a senior female leader in our organization, and she asked me, who do you think would be your sponsor? I said, oh, good question. I don't know. I think I'm in general quite well liked and people do say good things about me, but I think this person would be my sponsor. And because at the time I was looking for a move from London back to Asia, and she said, no, he's not your sponsor, because if he was, he'd be reaching out to his network in Asia and say, I've got this amazing talent here, are you hiring? So they would take a more proactive role. I can't say I have found that person yet, but I can see how amazing it would be if such a person is there in your life.
It's very insightful that you point how a sponsor should be more proactive in their approach. Kelly, would you have any thoughts on this? Would you like to add on to it?
So I think, we talked about mentors and sponsors, but I think what's also important are allies or peers that are in the same sort of network, and you can grow together. Obviously, when you're younger, having this group to collectively motivate each other towards the right direction, I think that's very important. But as you develop and evolve through your career life, having these allies to consistently grow with you also helps a lot in your career development. And going back to just mentors in general, I think a successful opportunity for any women in tech or any women in their career life is to have a manager or a support group that is always there to be able to share inspirational ideas, ways to lead them, to guide them to make the right next step in their career life. And even some that are willing to let you go to try something different. So right. I had a really good manager during my agency days, my digital agency days, and he was one of the best people manager ever. And there was an opportunity to move on to something bigger and cooler. But obviously, as a talent, he wanted to retain me. But I think it was also, please go and grow with this next venture of yours.
I think, after listening to all three of you, the answer is indeed yes, because we see what you all are today, at this stage, at this level. You've indeed learned a lot of things throughout your career. And I'm sure all these mentors have definitely helped you shape to be, what you are today. Yeah. So awesome. We have some questions coming in from the audience. For those of you who have joined us later, please send in your questions in the chat function to Albert Lee. And so let's move to the question. The question is, as a manager that recently hired a motivated young female engineer, what advice do you have for him to influence or develop this new talent based on your experiences to get to where you are today? Kelly, would you like to go first to it?
So, sorry, can you repeat the question one more time? Is it
sure.
Yeah.
Sure. So as a manager, just give me a second.
Just a second.
Yeah.
So
this is a female manager or male manager?
Looks like a female manager, because the manager wants to get to where you are today. So it looks like a female manager. So
no, it's actually a male manager.
It's a male manager. Oh, perfect.
All right. Thank you so much for clarifying that. Yeah, right. Let's get back to the question.
Okay. So as a manager that has recently hired a motivated young female engineer, what advice do you have for him to influence or develop this new talent based on your experiences to get to where you are today?
Okay. So I think one of the first thing to do is really to understand what motivates her in her role. Why has she chosen this specific role? And obviously for the manager to hire her, there must be some sort of, I guess, some sort of highlights of this person that this manager already sees in the candidate, right? So I would suggest that it would be good to understand first what motivates her. Secondly, from a technology perspective, what areas can you help her grow further? Where she wants to develop, because I think as one grows with what you want to sort of achieve, that becomes naturally a very strong motivation.
Wonderful.
Mayda, would you like to give an answer to this question?
Okay, my take will be, regardless the manager is a male or female, I would say that every young talent, we need to make sure that they are not burnt out at the beginning. They came in with high energy, passions. I'm going to change the world. They will have things like this, but at the same time, they're also not sure about, is this job the one that I really want?
Right.
Or am I going to stuck into the job? Things like this. I would say that as a manager, we need to provide the environment for he or she to fail. When she fails, make sure that we have a safety net that we are able to pick the person up. That is one. Secondly is, don't burn them out, because it's like sometimes they could be just too over enthusiastic on certain things and they get burnt out, because the tech career is a endless marathon. Endless. We not even know where's the journey, right? No, we're not sure where is the destination, but we know we have a journey.
Right.
So moreover, it's a plus of females talent. The female talents have to run, I would say, I went through that route. I went through that journey. You have to run with the extra burden load that's on top of the work. You have the extra work to do in a social society that you have to resume, like a mothers, a daughters, what daughter-in-law, mother-in-law, whatever things, right? So these are the extra things that the person has to carry. We have to make sure that the person are not burnt out. It's a long-term, long journey, and we have to be a good cheerleader for every talent that we have or we are responsible for. Continue to cheer them up, continue to make sure that give them the resources, open up the door for them. There are certain doors we can help to open up for them. So I would say that would be the three advice. That one is to create a safety net for them to fail. The other one is to cheer them up so that they won't be burnt out in their career.
Awesome, wonderful. Thanks, Mayda. Lorena, what are your thoughts around this?
The answers are comprehensive enough. I've got nothing to add, really.
All right.
Wonderful. So it's a marathon and we don't know where the destination is. I loved it, Mayda. Totally. All right. Which also moves us on to our next question then.
Yes. So, while we're talking about this industry being largely male dominated, I'm sure every one of us here today, including the male audience, would like to know, what can men do to, promote diversity and inclusion in this industry, and how important is it to have male allies and champions of women on your team? Lorena, let's start with you.
So a few years ago, we launched a development program called Women in Digital in HSBC. The aim is twofold. One is to promote the internal talents, because we find at entry level, there's even distribution, and gradually as you move on to the top, the females seem to get left behind, one reason or another. And so how do we move these people up? Secondly is, how do we attract more senior female leaders into us digital specifically? Then of course we applied the technology lens, and there were people who told us there's just limited pool of female talent in technology. How many females are doing DevOps? That was the question that was asked of us. So I think a few things we put forward, apart from developing the female talents themselves. It's actually quite interesting, because it was a 6 months long development program with intermittent touch points. And when we had the opening event, people were talking in this level of tone or voice. And 6 months later, at the closing event, everyone's speaking so much louder. So I think that tells you the kind of pump you up, the confidence up, that I have a voice, I need to use my voice to speak, really worked.
Right.
So that's the program. But what can we do? I think in hiring, make conscious decision to make sure the short list, the long list are at least 50-50. That's a very good starting point. And do acknowledge that you may have this unconscious bias. It's now a much more widely accepted subject, concept, unconscious bias across all sorts of discriminations or biases. Do check yourself. Am I am I doing this unconsciously? Have that check in mind. And as female talents ourselves, I think is to move the mental taboo of technology is not really for women. Oh, it's a bit boring. Oh, it's sticky in front of computer, it's not glamorous. Like I was mentioning earlier, the technology itself and what it enabled could be super exciting and sexy, like the touch up your skin, that kind of thing. So it needs to go from the company or the employer need to be aware and make room for the talent, but the talent themselves need to be brave enough, put your hands up, raise your voice, find your voice.
Awesome. Thank you, Lorena. Kelly, what do you think men can do to promote diversity and inclusion in this industry? I know you've worked with mostly senior female leaders all of your life, but I would love to hear this from you.
So the current one is a male,
Okay.
but I don't think that really makes a difference.
Is he listening to us today?
I think he is. He's going to see the recording for sure.
Right.
So I think lead by example is very important. It needs to be sort of infused into the corporate culture. Right? So by having programs that is really promoting it, or even when you are consciously hiring the team, the ratio male-female ratio should be there should be a certain portion that should be allocated for a female hire and attracting female talent. But I think on the flip side, and I agree with Lorena on this one, which is as female talent or leaders in the organization, how do we make it, how do we become the sort of showcase, right? How do we offer this as a, hey, you know, this is a great opportunity. You should consider a career in tech the way, look at this success. You know, I think it's really promoting a lot of the success case and they become the inspirational story to the sort of next generation.
Lovely. Thanks, Kelly. Mayda?
We definitely need men, women, boys, girls in this particular effort. I've been like, why we need all of them, right? So you look into the statistic, we have about 43% females in our workforce in the whole world. And we may want to make a wild guess, how many females that work in the tech?
Yeah.
We have 28%. We have 28% females that work in tech, and we have 72% male. So we definitely need men in this particular effort. One is like we need the females to raise their voice, let them be heard, and let them to have I would say that a platform for them. But on the other hand, we also need a partner that to provide the platforms together. That is the 72% of the male airlines that they need to come together in this particular effort. I also look into the areas where it's like why we need males, so important on that. If let's say that we want to achieve a workforce, or I would say that a more inclusive areas for men and women, in the future, everything will be tech. We know every company will be a tech company. We need a lot of workforce in this particular industry. We need a little bit more engineer. We need a little bit more tester. When every company become a tech company, we need the IT department budget will get increased. The headcount will get increased because we need the engineer behind the scenes that to do things, right? So if you want to achieve 50% workforce as an equal, do you want to make another wild guess? How many years for us to achieve that?
I wouldn't be there for sure by then.
I can safely say that it's not our generation. It's definitely not my generation.
Yeah.
We need 27.5 years. It's almost 28 years to achieve 50% as equal. And if we want to move these needles, I would say that now it's no longer moving a needle. Now we need to move like, I'm not sure, a mountain, right? If we want to move a mountain, we need everyone in this energy. We need everyone to contribute. So I would say that it's a good start that we let females to have a platform, but we also need males and we need boys and girls that's together in that to make it as an inclusive place. So I always look into the statistic and the data that sometimes we say that, yeah, we lack of or we short of whatever male airlines that I come into. I will always tell them, I support diversity and inclusions. I support female in tech because I have a girl at home. I don't want her to take another 28 years to change the needle. I should be, or we should be doing something to make it a better place for the next generation to come.
Yeah, that's very interesting that you pointed out that way, because I was having this conversation with another person the other day, and what she said was, we do have a lot of male allies. There are a lot of male sponsors. They keep on saying we support you, but we don't hear them loud enough. So, we having male allies is one thing, but for them to be verbal enough about it, to be proactive about it, to be speaking about it, I think that can also make a huge impact. So yeah, wonderful. So we have another question coming in from the audience while we're on the topic of diversity and inclusion. So our audience wants to know, do you think the diversity of female tech talent vary due to cultural differences when we're talking about East versus West? Do you think there is variation because of the technical talent when it comes to the geography? Yeah, Mayda, you can go on.
Okay, I won't say that it's a different in terms for the East or the West. I would say that it's a culture. There will be the other elements in the society that which is a culture that it will be slightly different from this culture to that culture. Why I say that the culture make a difference, or I would say to add on to the complexity of it. I'm a mother, I'm the caregiver, and I have to work. There is three jobs that I have to do in one day, and there are certain cultures that they will have more domestic support. That there are certain activities that it can be shared in the family. As a result, that they will enable the females to accelerate in their career or more focused in the career. So I would say that the recent situations, like for example, I always remember this story where the Pepsi Cola, I would say that the former Pepsi Cola CEO that she shared, when she get the job as a CEO, she was so excited that she ran back home to share that with her mother-in-law. And the first thing that the mother-in-law asked her to do is to go and buy a loaf of bread. And she was shocked. It's like, I'm back to tell, I'm the CEO of a Pepsi Cola, and why are you asking me to buy a loaf of bread? And her answer, the mother-in-law answer is that, now you're at home, you're the daughter-in-law, and there is a job of the wife to do it. So I would say it's a culture part that adds on to the complexity to it. However, I think for us as a female, we also have to learn how to hold difficult conversation at home. It is very important. We need to have an equal partner that we're able to do to have a difficult conversations. Like there will be a certain times that this will be the daddy babysitting night. That is your night. There is a night that I have to do my conference call, or there will be a night that how to do the school run. It can't be me that always do the school run. The school run has to be like split, right? So there will be a certain things like this where I would say that in my learning, in my journey, is lack of role model for me to learn it from. And I learned all these tricks throughout my attachment. I was in the 1-year attachment in London. So when I look at my mentor, how she runs her household while she's holding a full-time job, that really give me a lot of the aha moment and also the growth mindset that I have to come back to tell that, okay, there is certain thing that we have to equal split, equal share, equal things. And that is also where I learned how to do a difficult conversation at home.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mayda. Kelly, what are your thoughts on it?
So I think culturally definitely makes a difference simply because of just the pure perception, how younger generations are being sort of not so much brainwashed, but they're sort of taught to see things in a certain way. So in your traditional Asian family, I think I can speak for all of us here, right? There are certain jobs or certain careers that you should not necessarily go for because it's not as prestigious or it doesn't look good, right? But I think tech has been very interesting, right? So generally, if you look at tech, there's always a sense of, tech being sort of geeky and obviously from not as an attractive woman wouldn't be in tech, that sort of, I would say a very conservative view or a very old school view of how a lot of the older generation would perceive women in tech, right? Sitting in front of the computer. But I believe that in the past 10 years, especially with the rise of a lot of these Silicon Valley startup and darlings, let's call darlings on Wall Street specifically, this has really changed the perception of how women in tech, or generally technology in that tech space, that image that it offers, right? Tech is actually now cool, next generation, intelligent, right? It's something that you need to have and be in, right? So there's no such thing as not knowing how to use a smartphone anymore, right? Or not knowing how to use sort of applications, right? WhatsApp, that peer-to-peer chat concept, to the generation of where my mom used to sort of communicate, that will never happen. She would think that, that's just way too, why are you talking to a stranger concept, right? So, but if you look at now, communication is based on a lot of these simple application, peer-to-peer chat, whether it's live video conference, and it's almost second nature now for any individual to use technology. And technology has become this really cool medium where you have individuals actually wanting to create and innovate stuff, businesses like that. So I think it has really changed. So having said that, if you look at the the West versus East, I think in terms of tech being cool, that is still better received in the West in general, simply because of a lot of the programs that are available, and generally the organizations that do promote the diversity and inclusion. There's a lot of successful women leaders in that space already. So I think from that aspect, the East is still, I mean, I don't think they're too far back. But there's more opportunity for women to excel in Asia, definitely.
Great, thank you. Lorena, would you like to share some thoughts?
Well, I was reflecting on the question, and I was trying to think back on, I spent 11 years in London, and grew up in Shanghai, and I'm working in Hong Kong. I think I have, just generalizing, only based on my own personal stats, and there's no stats to support this. I think I've met more women doing technology, the hardcore technology, here than in London. That can be completely ungrounded. But actually, Mayda, when you were talking about as a woman, the multiple things that weigh you down, one thing that I think is very true is in the likes of London, when women or when a family start having children, because there is less culture about the older generation looking after them, we heavily rely on daycare, which is very expensive. And for someone who just started off, I was working for Ogilvy, the digital media agency at the time, that my son's school fees or nursery fees could easily wipe out my whole month of income. Luckily, we're a dual income family, but I can totally see why some women just dropped out at that stage. Whereas here, where the helping system in both paid for help and family help is more prominent, I actually think this is a much friendlier place for childbearing women to progress in career.
Lovely. Thank you so much, Lorena. We have more questions coming in from the audience. Thank you, everybody. Thanks so much for the participation. Keep the questions coming. So the next question is, from our talks, as mentioned, that there is not enough pool of women in tech. What do you think we should change to improve this? Lorena, let's start with you.
Well, actually, I was reading an interesting report published by the Netherlands Council yesterday, Mayda, I think you may have read the same article, and it's giving some quite shocking stats in the based in Netherlands, which I think we can perceive as somewhere which is quite advanced. It listed some reasons. I think what really resonates is the going back to what we talk about, the perception of right, this is a bit hard, and right, tech is not for women, math is not for women, physics is not for women. I'd go and do these cool things here. I would say start from there. Try to move that thought out. Although I've got a boy and a girl, so I'm seeing it from the two sides. I'm very conscious not to just send my daughter to ballet and ice skating and my son to coding and robotics, but that seems to be what they choose to do. So as I think as parents of the next generation, we probably should be more conscious in our effort. But now you see STEM being promoted everywhere, and Hong Kong parents, mainland Chinese parents, overall East Asian parents tend to be very pushy in the tiger mum, tiger dad category of pushing their kids to do that. So yeah.
Awesome, lovely. Kelly, would you like to add to this? What do you think we should do to improve women in tech?
I think start with take baby steps. I think it's getting, at the end of the day, it's getting the individual excited about tech, right? So where do we start, right? I think starting them young is great. The experience needs to be fun. I think that fun element needs to always be around when you're learning. And I feel like in every organization, there should be an opportunity to get people excited in sort of a learning environment, really meeting people that are already in that space. I think that's also very important. One of the things that I find that has been really helpful for me is that you look at technologies that have actually changed or transformed the way the world works, right? And start with that as a way to motivate and get people excited about sort of creating that next generation solution or use case application that will be in your life every day. You know, similar to how the smartphone disrupted communication, and then watches once upon a time was really just an accessory, but nowadays it basically measures your heartbeat and everything, right? So I think looking at these really cool innovation and being part of it, right? Being eventually part of it and promoting it or even creating it and having that element to it would really help.
Awesome. Mayda, what do you think?
I will look into this as, I think first we have to identify, okay, let me share another statistic. There's about 100 females that study a bachelor, right? 100 bachelor students. There's 12 of them that graduated in STEM, and 3 of them continue to work in the field of STEM for the last for 10 years. So that left with Lorena, Kelly, and myself. So only 3 of us that remain in the STEM industry. This statistic, it came from, it was provided by the World Economic Forum. If you look into the numbers, this statement, it tells us we have 3 problems that we need to solve. One is we need to create the pipeline. Is 100 sufficient, right? If you look into the leakage, it's so big, we need to create a higher pipeline for more girls. We should create the consciousness that STEM is for boys and girls, and so that we will not like over-emphasizing this is only for girls, this is only for girls, because sometimes the boys will also take a step back that why only for girls and not for boys, right? So we have to create the pipeline that has to be healthy. And then the second one is we have to sustain the pipeline, which is many of them that face in their careers, in their professionals and also their personal life in their 20s to their 30s. This is the part where we started to see the sustainability that we can't sustain the pipeline. And in the end, we see leakage. We only left with 3 more people that work in the STEM industry. So if we put into every scenario, every country or every continent, it is consistent repeat in every area. So I would say that every organizations or every foundations or institutions or individuals, we can have a role to play in all these three phases. That as a mom, we have to promote it as inclusive as possible for boys and girls. Like my girl started her coding at the age of 6, and it's the same time the girls and the boy both go for they went for the same coding classes, and now my girls also play the same game. They are also in the gaming. I have to make confession that I don't know how to get them out from the gaming. But the boys and the girls, they play, and this seems to be like their childhood. They talk about the laser beam, they talk about this and that. I said, oh, okay, I have to like follow up with them. Like, who are all these gamer commentators that have millions and millions of followers? So it has to be a topic for boys and girls. And then the sustainability part, where I think every organization have the role to play, where to create a network like Lorena talk about, the female for digital, to have all these networks that we link them internally, externally, to say that the problem is not you individuals or one company, it's everyone's problems. And then we solve the problems together. And I would say that if we solve the part 1 and the part 2, the part 3 is a given. It is an auto formula. We will just achieve the numbers to have more female. So to get more, I think everyone have the role to play, but we have to be very specific at which part or point that we want to get more into the area. Yeah.
Wonderful. Mayda, I like how you split it professionally and personally, and how you think both the roles play an important role. And wonderful.
Yeah.
So
you know, as mothers to young girls ourselves, that is something that we also often wonder that, you know, what do they need to hear? What do they need to see to start considering a career in tech? So, you know, that was a very good insight. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. And if we have any more questions coming in, we still have a couple of minutes left. If the audience wants to know anything else, we would be happy to take one more question. So, you know, trying to wrap up, what would be your advice to somebody who's looking to grow into a tech career? I know we've talked about young girls, how we can support them, how we can propel them towards a career, but somebody who's just started, what would be your advice to them? What, you know, to avoid that leakage, what would you advise them? What is it something that they should be looking at? So, Mayda, we could start with you.
I would say that it's a very simple advice, that just be bold and be yourself. Yeah. And that will help every individual to be their best. Yes, we want to be our best, but sometimes how to be our best is the 2 elements. I would say definitely they will have more recipe for that. To take a small step or the baby step is just need to be bold, comfortable as who we are, as our skin, that's who we are. Yeah, we don't feel sorry to be females, and this is who we are. And we just need to be bold, and then we just need to take to be more courageous, be ourselves. I think that is the authenticity about every individual, carry them throughout the entire career. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Kelly, would you like to share your advice?
So extending to what Mayda was saying, I think outside of courage, definitely always continue to be curious, right? Curiosity is very important. Be curious, always be willing to learn. Even during the not so positive experiences, take something good out of it. I think there's a lot of information and knowledge out there. There's a lot of different part of what we call tech, right? And it's throughout the journey, find out what you like. I mean, I think when I say what you like is what you enjoy doing, based on what you enjoy doing, and then marry that with the technology application that fits that sort of environment. That's sort of where you should develop. If you like a certain type of technology per se, I think one of the things is learn more about it from bottom up. So, you know, if you like to see beautiful websites, for example, right, then really learn how to code and how to actually create these websites. So that whole, learn to create something that you like.
Right, wonderful. Thank you so much. Lorena, would you like to add something?
I'm taking notes as those 2 ladies speak.
We all
great
are.
advice.
We all are.
we have this recorded. This chat will be recorded. Don't worry about that.
You need a voice recognition and translates into notes. Yeah, I totally echo, and I think that just be you and continue to learn. Don't be restrained. Oh, I'm a female. I must well have restraint in developing my tech career. And again, tech career is not it's not binding. That, like Kelly was saying, tech career comes in many different shapes and formats. Don't corner yourself. Keep developing. But if you find there are other things that you want to explore, be open, be bold. Don't be limited.
Awesome. That's a wonderful note to end the discussion. We are getting a lot of questions, honestly, and we can see the interests building up. But I think going back to the question that started all of this, are we there yet? It's funny how it reminds me of a nursery rhyme that my daughter sings. Are we there yet? Not yet. So I think not yet, but we all do believe that a lot has been done around this area. A lot of awareness has been created around this subject. And we also appreciate the efforts that are being made towards this at workplaces. But I think each and every one of us here today would agree that there's still a lot of potential. But we are constant learners, so let's keep learning and drive change consistently as effectively as possible. We had a wonderful discussion today, honestly, with a lot of interaction. And we are glad to have been part of this, be in the presence of such noteworthy personalities and speakers. Thank you so much, Lorena, Mayda. Thanks, Kelly. It was wonderful to have you on our panel tonight. And we really appreciate you sharing about your journey, your experiences, your tips that you have acquired over the course of your career. Thank you to the audience and each one of you who found out time from your schedule to join us in our discussion today. You've been fantastic. There have been a lot of questions from you with a lot of participation. We really appreciate that. Do not forget to follow us on social media, that is Instagram, LinkedIn, and YouTube. We will also have this chat recorded on YouTube. So please follow us on social media for updates on our future talks. And last but not the least, thank you to the entire NLS team for constant support. Sana, you've been a wonderful co-host tonight. And thank you, Albert and Dheeraj, who have been the working minds behind making this event a big success. Yeah. Thank you, everybody. Have a lovely evening and goodbye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank
Good
you.
evening.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye.